Someone has got to delete Twitter from my phone. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Just another struggling writer, the Beleaguered Author's one-stop shop for commiseration and hopefully inspiration. My name is Carrie Scher, and I am just another struggling writer. Well, today is the start of another writing vlog in which I am trying to make some headway on the third draft of my current work in progress, Seekers of Empyrean, which is my modern world urban fantasy about a young woman with a rare magical ability who is recruited by a secret government agency to hunt down a dangerous fugitive in exchange for help solving her mother's disappearance. Today, unfortunately, is actually Tuesday. I am starting this vlog a little late. Yesterday, I just got home from work and I was feeling pretty unwell. I was having some body aches, especially in my legs, which is usually a precursor to getting sick. And I've also been waking up every morning with a sore throat. But I'm starting to think that's just because the air conditioning in my bedroom is working again. But on the other hand, it never used to give me a sore throat. Why would it start now? I don't know. Probably because I'm much more dehydrated these days. Anyway, so I came home and I laid in my recliner with my heated blanket for a little while just to kind of give my sore body some relief. And then I got up and I tried to edit a video and I got about halfway through it. And then I was like, I just can't do it anymore. And then I went to bed. So writing did not occur yesterday. Filming did not occur yesterday. Editing barely occurred yesterday. It was just kind of one of those days where I just needed to not do anything. So today I made it a point to edit through chapter 9 and kind of stitch together Frankenstein style all of the bits and pieces from the previous versions of this chapter and another chapter. And I did make progress, I am happy to say. I am maybe like 2/5 through. I'm not quite halfway through the chapter. So yay, I added 82 words total, but I have also been deleting things as I've been going. And then I also took a look ahead at how I'm going to navigate the rest of this act. As a reminder, I do the 6-act structure, which would mean acts 1 through 4 are each 20% long. Now, my first act was a little short, but again, that's not a surprise to me because I do tend to not beat around the bush and get straight into the inciting incident. So that gives me a little bit of wiggle room in Act 2 to be a little bit lengthy, which is good because I'm going to need it. But I did come up with some ideas on how to condense certain things. I am going to compress two chapters that were on the shorter side, that they only total together 3,000 words. I'm going to compress that down to a couple of paragraphs and then fold it into a new-ish scene. A version of the scene did exist in draft 2, but it was completely different. It's where my main character is meeting the rest of the team who are on the special task force with her, and it's happening much earlier in draft 3 than it happened in draft 2. So that's the biggest difference. And she's just going to be going over the details of the special thing that they want her to do, whereas in the previous version she just kind of read the file and was like, okay, which, yes, in case you're wondering, was extremely boring. I don't know how I missed it the first time, but I was rereading it earlier to review and I was like, wow, why did I think this was a good idea? There's just going to be some rearranging and some creative puzzle piece connecting that's going to happen over the next 15,000-ish words, but I am hoping to not go more than 15,000 words over the next 5 chapters. And then it's into brand new stuff. Unfortunately, progress has just been slow. I don't know why I thought that I could jump into doing 2,000 words every single day after taking 4 months off and knowing that this draft needs surgery in a way that draft 2 didn't. Draft 2 did copy some bits, mostly in the beginning, but a lot of it was just fresh drafting. So what I am finding is that the puzzling out how to take the words that I've already written and make them work in a new context and in a new light is exercising a different muscle than just drafting is. And while I do think I still prefer this phase and this part of writing over just fresh drafting, it doesn't have the same instant dopamine as seeing my word count climb up. So there is that. I can't remember what I was saying. I'm sorry, the other thing that's really been distracting me is I have been, ever since the Final Fantasy VII Revelation trailer came out while I was on vacation, I have done nothing but argue on the internet about it. Someone has got to delete Twitter from my phone. Anyway, so it's not only am I in a new phase of writing that I'm kind of experiencing for the first time. I'm also like dealing with what I would equate to like muscle atrophy in terms of like my creative muscle. I didn't flex my creative muscle for 4 months, and now I'm feeling the burn of working out again. I think those two factors are definitely kind of working in tandem to make it seem like I'm not making any progress. And to be sure, yesterday I didn't do anything, and today I didn't get as much done as I wanted, but I am making progress. I am making the book better. At least I hope. It feels better when I'm reading the chapter, but like I don't think I'm going to really feel solid about it until I read the entire finished third draft in sequence. Because like what I'm worried about really is that I'm putting all this together, but that each chapter is going to feel like a separate like island from the previous one. That's my big concern right now, is that it's not going to feel totally cohesive. It's going to feel like I edited chapter by chapter, and which on the one hand is like, yeah, I am kind of doing that because like I'm copying and pasting things, and as I'm editing through, I'm going like, wait a minute, didn't I change that? And then I have to go back into like earlier in draft 3 to see what I changed. And anyway, so there is that aspect of it, but I do think I am making it all continuous. I don't know. I'm having some anxiety about that. It just feels like a little bit of a Frankenstein doing it this way. And I never thought I would say this, but maybe I am looking forward a little bit to writing new words that feel like really, really, like they really do belong in this draft. It's late. It is 11:30 and I need to go to bed. Not the least of which because I still don't feel super great. I've just got a couple of days ahead that are just going to whip me. I've got a big meeting on Thursday that is not at my usual office. It is at an office that is much, much farther away, and I have to be there at 8:30. And it's just like, if you're making all of us come to this meeting, some of which are having to travel much, much farther than normal, why would you set the start time at 8:30? Anyway, you can tell I'm really thrilled about the goings on. Oh, I also wanted to tell you about one other thing that I did today, which I probably should not have spent as much time on as I did. But when I first started playing Star Rail, I was feeling really, really overwhelmed with the amount of characters I was pulling and like what level they were. And like just the UI does not like allow for like a really easy, quick view of all your characters and all their details and things. And so I made a Notion page, like a spreadsheet in Notion to help me keep track of all my characters and what their level is and all of their details. And that really helped me. And I refer to it all the time and I'm always updating it. So today I was thinking about what I've been doing with my AuthorTube backlog, which you may recall when I left off in February was already pretty astronomical, and now I can't even imagine what the number is. So what I've been doing to winnow it down is instead of going in total chronological order, I've been just watching one channel's videos in chronological order. So I've caught up with all of Meredith's backlog, or videos that I had on backlog, and then all of Alyssa's, and I'm just going through it that way. But like, it occurred to me this morning that obviously they're going to be updating as I go, so it's not going to be caught up forever. So I have to keep track of it, like when to go back and watch the new ones. And anyway, all that to say, I ended up making the ugliest spreadsheet ever for keeping tabs on my AuthorTube backlog, which I will put on the screen here for you to marvel in all its hideous glory. I probably will not be commenting much, especially on videos that are older than like a month, maybe 2 weeks, because that's embarrassing, yikes. But I am making a concentrated effort to catch up on everyone's writing. So if you're a fellow AuthorTuber follower of mine, please know that I love and appreciate you and I will get to you in time. But there's probably like 200 videos that I need to watch. Anyway, so I had like a hyper fixation on it, and it didn't take me truly that long, but it was, it feels productive to me because I will make use of it. But like in the grand scheme of things, was that really a wise use of my time? I'll let you be the judge. Hello, good morning. It is now Wednesday morning, barely 9 full hours since I last talked to you. But I just wanted to share with you guys some thinky thoughts that I had after I went to bed last night. Part of the reason I was really struggling, I think, with the edits of chapter 9 was because I was having particular trouble stitching two parts of the conversation together. And so last night I went to bed, and as I always do, I was thinking about how I wanted to proceed with that particular moment and scene. And I thought about it. I couldn't come up with anything. And then it occurred to me that I just need to do some more surgery and just take a couple of sentences from part 1 of the conversation and move it closer to the end. And then that, I think, will be a more natural flow of the conversation. So they're covering basically 3 main points in this conversation. They're covering why she's being recruited, what the job actually is, and what Arceli expects to get out of the job itself. Like what's in it for her, essentially. What the original configuration was basically in that order, but now I'm thinking it needs to be like, this is our expectations for you for the job. This is why we want you for the job. And then her what's in it for me kind of thing. Obviously I can't get into the details, but I just feel like that's going to flow a little bit more naturally and make it a little bit easier. So I went to bed excited to get back into it. As always, I was bummed that I had to sleep, but that's just the nature of my brainstorming, is that I get all these ideas and then I have to go to sleep. And then I even thought of an intro into, so I have hope and optimism for today's writing. I just have to get through a work day first. Hey y'all, checking in again. First, sorry for the air conditioning, but it is June in Texas. I'm not turning the air conditioning off. But I did just want to check in because I did the trimming and the surgery a little bit. I still need to like kind of write the paragraphs that'll be the stitches that pull the bits together. But as I was doing that, I think I have identified another issue I'm having with this scene that is making it difficult for me to work through. And that is, originally the scene was at least 2 chapters. It may have even been 3 chapters in the first draft, because it is originally it was a massive info dump. She's not only meeting her new boss, she's kind of learning the expectations of what her job will be. She is like being sworn to secrecy about this job and about magic in general. And she was like learning the details of why she was being hired, specifically like the details of the mission and the task force and all of that. And most of that has been reallocated to other scenes to kind of break it up. And it also just didn't make sense that in the secret government agency, one of the big bosses is going to be doing that to like this basically a subcontractor, kind of thing. I've broken it up. I've taken out the secrecy part and put that somewhere else. And then she's going to get a debriefing on the mission with like the actual team members and the task force. So that has also been kind of stripped away and reallocated. And so all that's left is just the actual meeting of her new boss. And then the new boss sort of being like, okay, we're hiring you for this job. This is what we expect of you. But because I have been going for some element of realism in these scenes, it's kind of dry. She's like basically reading off the terms of an employment contract. Like, this is what we expect. You're going to work these days. It's not that dry, but still, it's just like her expectations for her job. And I'm wondering if it's interesting. I do think it's salient information for the reader, because it just sort of is like background detail for like why or what Arceli's working conditions are like and what her expectations are and what her job parameters are. But that's not really the problem. Because really that has been so whittled down. It's maybe 800 words of an almost 3,500 word scene. So anyway, that's not really the issue that I'm having, totally. The issue that I'm having is that Arceli's attitude in the scene is kind of coming out swinging. Just kind of snarky and just disrespectful and just sort of, and that is kind of her personality. She's just kind of like, she's never had a real job before. She doesn't like authority. She takes nothing seriously. She doesn't want to be told what to do. She feels like she was strong-armed into taking this job in the first place. But she also needs something from them. She's decided by this point that she can leverage their need for her to get something out of them. And so it just doesn't feel like this kind of like low-level hostility is just, it doesn't feel productive. But I'm also just like, I'm trying to avoid just very dryly doing this info dump stuff, you know, like she needs to have reactions to what she's hearing, and it doesn't feel correct to have her just sit there just plaintively like, yes, okay, thank you, I agree to all your terms, you know, kind of thing. Like I feel like her personality would come out, like she's not really gonna care about this person being like this big boss at this secret government agency. She's going to be who she is. And I'm just struggling with striking that balance of letting her personality come through, but also not letting that be a detriment to her own goals. Although I guess that could be interesting, but like I need her to accomplish this one thing. Like that's, anyway. So I'm just kind of struggling. It's just the overall just kind of like back and forth doesn't feel like it fits or that's totally natural. And I think part of that is definitely because of the Frankenstein process that this chapter has gone through, because some of this is like holdover from not just draft 2, but draft 1 as well. I just don't know that framing or that tone is still consistent with the new context of the sequence of events that led them here. Anyway, I just went and grabbed lunch, so I'm gonna eat and I'm gonna dwell on it, and then I guess that'll be my task for the rest of the day. And when I get home, I almost want to like go back to the beginning of the book and read every chapter up until this one, just to see if it's tonally consistent or if it truly is out of place. But it's 9 chapters. It's almost 30,000 words. Do I have time for that? I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna go eat and we'll chat later. I have no idea if this is a good angle or good light, but I also don't give a fuck right now because I'm so tired. So it is now Wednesday evening. It is just about 11:30, and I am pleased to say that I was able to figure out how to fix chapter 9. Basically, I just went back and was like, Arceli is not going to approach this meeting with hostility. She's just not going to approach it as a subordinate either. She's going to walk in there honestly believing herself as an equal to this woman who is like this high-level leader in this secret government agency, and she's not going to be intimidated. What did I tell you? What did I tell you? Anytime I'm sitting down with my laptop working, he appears, because not 10 minutes ago I was playing Star Rail. Do you mind? I'm about to go to bed. You missed your chance. Whee! Anyway, so I just wrote it where she's not being purposefully snarky. She's not trying to be provocative or hostile. She's just being herself. And that worked out really, really well. And I feel much more strongly about the scene. I am still kind of concerned that it's the stitches of the Frankenstein's monster are still visible. I haven't done an edit pass yet, so maybe when I go through it that'll get cleaned up. I really did have every intention of starting chapter 10 tonight, but then I unfortunately sat down to edit the vlog for this week, last week's vlog for this week's post, and that took like 4 hours and I still am not done. I low-key forgot how long it takes to edit vlogs because I take so much footage, and like I somehow misplaced a couple of days of footage, and one of the days was the first day of the vlog where I took the most B-roll and all of that stuff. And so I was like, wow, I only have 45 minutes of footage to edit. I did really good moderating myself. And then I realized what I did, and I had to go pull in the other clips, and then it became an hour and 40 minutes. And most of that's B-roll, so you're not going to see most of it. I did spend quite a bit of time, in fact, the majority of my evening on that video, which is sort of the problem with tying my writing motivation to also my my content creation motivation, in that when one comes back, so does the other, and then I have to split my focus. I'm never just doing one or the other. But at the same time, it's the trade-off that I have to make, because I don't think that I would have gotten this far without the content creation side of things. You know what I mean? I'm not really completely freaking out about time just yet, but I fear that I will start very soon if I think about it too hard, because I need to be moving through 2,000 words a day. That is irrelevant to being new words or not, but I need to be copying over or putting in 2,000 new words every single day to stay on track, and that has not happened at all. Now, to be fair, where I left off in draft 2, I was at 77,000 words, and I was just at like the 63% mark of the story. So draft 2 was extremely bloated and long, and I'm trying to be very diligent about making sure that that's not the case here, because I paid Brielle for 90, and I am willing to go up to 100, but I do not want to be more than that. Draft 1 was 105, 106 technically. And if it goes anything beyond that, I will seriously have a mental breakdown. So I'm trying to be very diligent about keeping the words down. And I do love cutting things. I love that part of the revision process. I love making things tight and concise. So I don't worry that that'll be a problem in the long term. The problem is I don't really have a long term. I have until August 1st. So it might become a problem, because I'm not moving through 2,000 words a day. And the 2,000 words a day is based on the 90 to 100,000 words estimate. And I'm not doing that. So unfortunately, tomorrow I have a very big meeting to attend. It's so big that they told us we don't even have to dress like in our office clothes, because it's going to be a big thing, and it's not at our usual central location. Is at a location that is, according to Google, 45 miles from me, and that is 45 miles of dense urban and suburban traffic. I have to get up early and leave early tomorrow to make it there on time. And also, so not only did they make it at a location where it's much, much farther than my normal drive, they're also requiring us to be there at 8:30 in the morning, which in my opinion is a felony. So I need to go to bed. So all told, I think it was a successful writing day, even though on paper, I didn't mention this earlier, even though on paper, I actually deleted almost 600 words, but that's a good thing. Obviously, I was just talking about my word count, and I'm just like, why did that whole section that I deleted, it was like the very tail end of this chapter. And I was reading through it. I was like, why did I even write this? What was the point? And I think I was just trying to fill the gap so I could finish the chapter on this kind of punchy line. But I was just like, it's so stupid. I should have just not. Anyway, so I ended up deleting like 600 words and ending on a much punchier, much more plot and theme appropriate moment anyway. So like I said, I'm pretty pleased with how this chapter turned out. It was a struggle for a minute, but I got through it. So I am going to move on to chapter 10 tomorrow. Hopefully the meeting won't go all day. They have it on our calendar until 3:30, but like 3:30 in Dallas traffic is almost the same as 5 o'clock. So not as much of a head start as you would think, but I'm hoping that is like just a very conservative estimate and we're done at like 2. That would be nice. I'll start chapter 10 tomorrow, but there's not going to be a lunch where that's going to be possible. So I'm going to go to bed. Good night. Good morning. It is now actually Saturday morning. Unfortunately, the writing motivation has not really been there the last couple of days. Fridays are always hard. I know I say that ad nauseum, but Fridays are always hard for me. I just want to come home after a long work week and not do anything. And I usually don't. I really tried to convince myself to do it last night, but I ended up just like in this task paralysis situation trying to make myself do it. So I decided to stop forcing myself to try and work and ended up spending the last couple hours of my night just vegging, which is probably what I should have done from the beginning. And then Thursday, I just had that really big meeting, which was a big social thing. It was a very, very taxing day. And again, I just wasn't really feeling it. So I am a little bit behind, but I do have a plan. I've just been looking over draft 2 and kind of coming up with a plan for the rest of Act 2. So in draft 2, from the point I am at now in draft 3 to get through the events of Act 2 is 6 chapters. I haven't done the math on the word count, but it's a lot. But I've looked them all over. And what I would really like to do is to get all of that down to just 3 chapters. I see where I can cut things. There are 2 chapters in there that were very, very short. They only amounted to just over 3,000 words together. Those can be basically condensed and summarized into a couple of paragraphs, which is what I'm planning on doing. Then we have like the training montage section where there is a lot of info dumping about how the magic system like technically functionally works on a granular level. Because while Arceli got to see magic in action in a previous chapter, this is where she's actually learning how to do it herself. And I don't know, I really liked the system that I came up with and all of the terminology and things, and I want to share it. So that is kind of a big chunk. I've got to figure out how I'm going to make that interesting and not just be one full 3,000 word chapter of just here's how it works. And then there's a couple of scenes that one just feels like filler. I don't really see the purpose of including it at all. And if I do, it will be repackaged and shipped off elsewhere. And then one that I'm definitely shifting to Act 3. So I think I can do it. My hope is to finish Act 2 out with 9,000 more words, which would keep me closer to my target word count. Maximum amount that I'm willing to allow myself would be 12,000, but I'm hoping that that won't be necessary. I would like to be around between 9 and 10,000, and I'm hoping that I can do it. Like I said, I see potential for where I can condense things and summarize things and just remove some of the fat and really get down to the nitty gritty. So what I think my plan is to write 3 more chapters. And those chapters are going to be the main character meeting the rest of the task force that's, on this mission that she's been recruited for, and learning the details of the mission itself, like what their goal is. I mentioned in the log line and dangerous fugitive, who the fugitive is, why they're a fugitive, and why they're hunting her, and all of that. Obviously, that's going to be pretty dense because not only is it introducing a bunch of characters, it's also getting information about the antagonist. Lots of potential for info dumping there too. I feel like Act 2 in the 6-act structure is just going to be the most info dumpy in a lot of these kinds of books because it's the learning the rules of the new world. The next chapter is going to be Arceli meeting the woman who is training her in magic and then getting the actual nitty-gritty details of the magic system. It's not going to be a practical lesson. It's just going to be an information thing. And then chapter 3 will be her practically learning how to use magic, and then not a montage, but you know what I mean, like a kind of time jumpy sequel type scene where time is passing and she's learning how to do the magic, and just to kind of show her learning. And that'll be it. And then I can get into Act 3, which will have the most brand new words. I think almost all of it is going to be changed. And the parts that are staying are being severely edited, and the context is changing, and it's basically going to be rewritten. So in the perfect world, my goal for the day would be to write all 3 of these chapters and finish Act 2 today. Bearing in mind that I also have an 8 to 10 page paper due for school tomorrow, and I have a baseball game tomorrow, so I can't put it off until tomorrow either. So if I could get through the first 2 of these chapters, granted, the first one is a new scene, so I'm going to have to basically first draft the scene, which takes longer. That's kind of my pie in the sky dream, is to get all 3 chapters done, but realistically probably just 2, and I would be satisfied with that. It is just about 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm gonna have some breakfast and I'm gonna get settled in and actually start, because after taking a look at all of this, I feel motivated. What a concept. Why does this always happen? I'm trying to work. I'm almost done with my paper and I just want this to be done so I can get back to writing, but I have this. What's that about? Hey y'all, just checking in for a quick writing update. It is actually now Sunday evening, and I have some thoughts that I would like to share with you guys. Yesterday was kind of humbling. You may recall from literally the last clip you just watched that my goal for Saturday was to ultimately, my pie in the sky goal was to finish Act 2, which would have taken me all the way up through 40% of the book, around 36 to 40,000 words, which would have been 8 to 14,000. I knew I wasn't going to get that. That would be insane. So my actual modest goal was to get through like 2 of the 3 chapters that I wanted to write. And it should probably come as no surprise to you that that did not happen. What did happen was that I got out of the portion that was copied from draft 2 and into the portion where it was new words, and I kind of froze. I really struggled with it. Yes, I'm out of practice. I haven't been in the draft consistently since January, and most of the work that I have done thus far has just been copying over words from draft 2 and then editing through them. The actual new words that I've added has not been a ton. I would say like maybe 25% of the 13,000 words that I've added since I've been back in it have been brand new. That might be a little low, but the point is I'm working around an existing framework, which I'm very happy and comfortable doing. I have always said that I really love the editing process, and this is just more evidence to that fact, because once that framework ended and I'm back in a first draft mode and drafting all new words, oh my gosh, I froze. There's no other way to describe it. I froze, which is problematic because so much of the middle portion of this book is going to be brand new, nothing to copy over. And I'm on a tight deadline and I don't have time to muddle through this mental blockage I have with drafting new words. I have to get this taken care of quick, fast, and in a hurry. I'm not in totally dire straits yet, but I'm getting there. It got me thinking about what is a hot topic in our writing community right now, and that is the use of AI. So I'm going to talk a little bit about AI. So just a warning, if you are pro AI in creative spaces, this is not a AI friendly channel, and just be warned. I am not going to be personally attacking anyone who does use AI in their writing, but I will say I am encouraging them to cut the cord and step out on their own. But suffice it to say, trigger warning, an opinion on AI. Essentially, I was struggling with this new scene that I'm writing where my main character Arceli is meeting the task force to which she has been recruited and assigned, and also learning the details of the mission on which they are working, because this is all brand new to her. Everything is new to her. There's other details that I'm kind of showing to the reader, like she is staying, like she's got like a room that she's staying in that's on the campus of the secret government agency for reasons. And so I'm just showing like how her room is and what her living situation is like, and also kind of following up on the cliffhanger of the previous chapter, and then introducing a bunch of new like side characters and getting the details of the mission, and trying to do that in less than 3,500 words. As I was struggling, by the way, I don't think I mentioned this earlier, my total word count yesterday was 800 words, and I was hoping to get somewhere around 6,000. As I was really having a hard time finding the character's voice again and writing new words and coming up with like these new characters that I want to introduce that are truly just set pieces. They are not like, I'm not planning for the vast majority of them to continue appearing. I mean, obviously they'll be in here and there throughout the book, but not much beyond that. I had a thought, where it was like, really just wish the words could jump out of my head and onto the page, even if they're awful, and I could edit through them, because that's the part I'm good at. That's the part where I thrive. That's the part where I feel energized and motivated, is when I have something existing to work with and edit through and make better. I'm good at making something better. I'm terrible at the drafting part. So yeah, I wish that the words could just appear in front of me and I will edit through them, which is basically what generative AI does for you. And I had a kind of moment of clarity about why some aspiring writers elect to utilize AI. And that is because they are probably struggling in the same way that I am struggling. First drafting for many, many writers is the hardest part. It is just so difficult to conceptualize the ideas into something that is interesting to read. And in that way, I kind of understood the temptation to do it the easy way. Do it the way that cuts out the most time-consuming, the most soul-crushing part where you feel like you're not a good writer, and just get to the part where you're good at, which is editing through something and making it good. However, even if I were to prompt a generative AI model and say, hey, I just need you to come up with this scene for me, and I need it to be less than 3,500 words, and I need it to do all of these things, and these are the characters, and this is the situation, and it would spit something out, and I could just edit through that, it wouldn't be my words. It wouldn't be my voice. It wouldn't be my choice. It would be a hodgepodge of other people's ideas, other people's voices, other people's words, blended together in this slurry of unrecognizable, stolen slop that might be recognizable as words in the English language, but wouldn't be recognizable to me or any discerning reader as actual art. Even if I fed the previous draft and the current draft into the model and said, make it in my voice, it wouldn't. There's just no way to match my vision, my voice, my words, my characters, my goal through something like generative AI. Funnily enough, yesterday, I also happened to be scrolling on Reddit, and a sub came up on my feed that was writing with AI. And the post was pretty much exactly what I just said. It was a writer who uses generative AI kind of complaining that AI has a certain voice that is not to their taste, and that it kind of has a generative AI slop voice that, first of all, has certain connotations, and second of all, isn't really that good. And all of the comments on this thread were about how it's one of generative AI's like pitfalls or downsides or things that it's not good at, is that no matter how much you tell it to not generate writing in a certain style or a certain way, it just won't. And you can't tell it to mimic a certain style without that AI undertone coming through and making it obvious. You're going blue today. And so why do I bring this all up and why am I saying this? I'm going to talk about this in more detail, I think, in a longer video later, but it made me think about the difference between talent and skill as a writer. And not everyone is born with a natural talent for writing, but everyone can develop a skill for writing. And it feels like generative AI is being used as a supplement for people who believe they don't have talent, but really what it's doing is preventing people from developing skill. Because you can be a successful author, a very successful author, without talent, so long as you do the work necessary to develop skill, in my opinion. Maybe controversial, but the first person I thought of with this was Brandon Sanderson. His first book, Elantris, even by his own admission, was not his best writing. And I think you can see that when you're comparing that first book with his more recent ones, the ones where he has dozens of books behind him and all of that experience and the hours upon hours upon hours upon hours he put in to develop the skill. I'm not saying he's not talented. That was the first example I thought of about how Elantris, his first book, was very, very basic in its writing. And the writing itself, like on a line level, was not the best, but the storytelling was. So he had a talent for storytelling, but not necessarily line level writing. And he had to develop the skill for line level writing. Does that make sense? Please, Sanderson fans, don't come at me. I'm just trying to use an example here. And I would be willing to bet that people who use generative AI feel like they might have a talent for editing, or they might have a talent for story ideas, but not for the writing itself. And so they are using generative AI to kind of fill in that gap. And again, like, I had a moment where I understood that temptation, but I couldn't look at a novel that I prompted and generated and edited through with any sort of artistic pride or sense of integrity intact. Because at the end of the day, I didn't do it. I didn't sit down and spend hours in front of my laptop tearing the words out of my brain and forcing them onto the page and repeating the mantra, you can't edit an empty page, you can't edit an empty page, you can't edit an empty page. And knowing that this is the hardest part for me, and it will get easier once I get through it. That is not an experience that can be replicated through generative AI. And there's really no conclusion to this tirade. Just, I hope that if you are someone who currently uses generative AI, be that for brainstorming, be that for outlining, be that for world building, be that for actual drafting, that you understand that you don't have to be someone who has a natural gift in order to be a good writer. But you do have to have commitment to learning a skill. And I will just leave you with what ultimately snapped me out of my fugue state of like going, man, it really would be easy to generate this right now and edit through it, was if I can't be bothered to spend the time writing the book myself, who would bother spending their time and money reading it? Anyway, so that's just my little tirade on AI. It was truly a dark time yesterday when I was, 5-6 hours deep and I had not gotten beyond that 800 word mark. I also did have to take a substantial break to start writing my final paper for this class that I'm taking. It was 8 to 10 pages. I hadn't even written my name yet, and it took me 4.5 hours to write the first 2/3 of it. Anyway, I was struggling. All of that to say, it wasn't all writer's block yesterday. I did have other obligations, but it was truly a dire time that I was like, man, I wish the words would just come out of my head and just appear in front of me and I could just edit through it and be done with it. But that's not how it works. So it is, as I said, Sunday evening. I am feeling really, 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 really wiped out. I had a baseball game today that my mom couldn't make it to, so I took my son. We kind of forgot that it was Father's Day. And so the ballpark was a zoo. Oh my gosh, it was crazy busy. There were so many people there. We stood in line for like 40 minutes for 2 slices of pizza that I didn't end up eating anyway. I also had to finish my paper, which I just did a little bit ago. And anyway, it's just like Sunday things. Groceries, laundry, painting my nails. So I don't know that I'm going to get back into the draft today. What I really need to do is kind of plan out the scene a little bit. I had done that on Friday and I thought I was in a really good place, but I don't know. I think my ambitions are a little bit too unrealistic for the word count that I want. I don't think that I can introduce at least 2 recurring characters and a bunch of other side characters and talk about the details of the mission with the words I have remaining. I think I'm at like 1,000 words in the scene. And like I said, I want to keep it to around 3,000. Definitely less than 3,500. I'm having a hard time seeing how I'm going to do that. Once I get into the actual mission details, I can copy a little bit because I did do that in a different chapter in draft 2. So I can do that a little bit. It will need some significant editing because obviously the circumstances are so different. But I'm in this portion where she has arrived at the meeting room and she is being introduced to all these characters, and I just don't know how. I don't know how to write words. I miss editing. I can't wait to just be in a position where I can just edit through things. But fortunately, I'm entering that phase of the manuscript where it's going to be a lot of new words up until, anyway. I said all this before. Anyway, so I think I'm going to wrap things up here. Thank you so much for watching. Sorry this vlog was kind of a little all over the place and, not really effective as a vlog, I feel like. But, you know, I'm still getting back into the swing of things. That applies to the actual writing itself as well. So with that, thank you so much for watching. I so appreciate it. If you like my content and want to support the channel, please like and subscribe or consider leaving a comment down below. In my next video, I will be doing the author get to know me tag that I found on Emma's channel. I hope you look forward to it, and I will see you then. Bye.